Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. It all started on a rainy afternoon at the airport, when a simple mistake led to a life-changing encounter. Little did she know, the man she helped would turn out to be someone she never could have imagined. Let's see how it all unfolded. Now, back to our main character. Emma Brooks stood in the bustling terminal, glancing nervously at her phone. She had agreed to help her sister with her shift at the airport, but the idea of taking her place made her anxious. It wasn't that she wasn't capable, it was just that she didn't belong in this world. Her second-hand dress and scuffed shoes felt out of place against the sleek, polished surroundings. "You promised her, Emma," she whispered to herself, trying to steady her nerves. "You can do this." As she walked through the terminal, her eyes scanned the sea of people, searching for her first pickup. Then she saw him. At the far end of the terminal, sitting alone with his phone in hand, was a sharply dressed man who looked like he belonged in a corporate boardroom rather than a crowded airport. Emma's heart skipped a beat. This must be him. She was certain of it. "Hi. You must be Kevin?" she asked, her voice a bit too loud, trying to break the tension she felt. The man looked up at her, his dark eyes wide for a moment as if caught off guard. He didn't say anything for a beat, then slowly nodded. Hi, Emma," he said, his voice smooth and calm. "Sorry, I'm a little early." "It's fine, don't worry about it." Emma, assuming he was simply shy, took a seat across from him. Blind dates are always so awkward, aren't they? She chuckled nervously, shifting her hands in her lap. "I know, Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, but that's okay. I can talk enough for both of us." The man, whose name was Liam, was quiet at first, glancing at his phone again. A message flashed on his screen, canceling a meeting with a colleague. He hesitated, his gaze flicking back to Emma. There was something about her, something real and unpolished, that intrigued him. Most people who sat at his table in high-end restaurants were always too polished, too rehearsed. Emma's honesty, her nervousness, her openness, made him pause. "Right," he finally said, leaning back in his chair with a slight smile. "Blind dates are something else." Emma laughed nervously, hoping the conversation would flow smoothly. But the truth was, she was uncomfortable, unsure of herself. After all, she was just a waitress in a second-rate diner, struggling to make ends meet, while Liam was a man who looked like he could own the whole airport. "So, what do you do?" she asked, trying to make conversation. "I work in tech," Liam replied vaguely, his voice giving nothing away. "Tech?" Emma perked up, trying to steer the conversation into safer waters. "That sounds cool. Like coding and apps and stuff?" "I'm terrible with computers. I can't even set up my own email half the time." Liam chuckled softly. "Something like that," he said, still not revealing too much. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, though. In fact, it was strangely calming. For the first time in a while, Liam felt at ease. Emma's rambling made him smile. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and she didn't seem to be judging him like the people in his business world often did. They talked for a few more minutes, exchanging small talk about the weather, about life. Emma shared a few anecdotes about her struggles at the diner and her dream of opening her own art studio. Liam listened, truly listened, something that most people never did with him. He felt a small spark of connection, something genuine. And then, her phone buzzed. Emma glanced down at the screen, her stomach sinking. "Hey Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Her face turned beet red as she looked up at Liam, realizing her mistake. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam smiled sheepishly, guilt flashing in his eyes. "No, I'm not," he said softly. Emma's heart dropped as she stood up quickly, her face burning with embarrassment. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she muttered, grabbing her coat and practically running toward the door. Liam stood too, his hand outstretched, but she was already gone, disappearing into the crowd. He stood there for a moment, a mix of regret and curiosity gnawing at him. Why did he feel this strange pull to her? And why, despite the awkwardness, was he hoping he'd get to see her again? Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. It all started on a rainy afternoon at the airport, when a simple mistake led to a life-changing encounter. Little did she know, the man she helped would turn out to be someone she never could have imagined. Let's see how it all unfolded. Now, back to our main character. Emma Brooks stood in the bustling terminal, glancing nervously at her phone. She had agreed to help her sister with her shift at the airport, but the idea of taking her place made her anxious. It wasn't that she wasn't capable, it was just that she didn't belong in this world. Her second-hand dress and scuffed shoes felt out of place against the sleek, polished surroundings. You promised her, Emma, she whispered to herself, trying to steady her nerves. You can do this. As she walked through the terminal, her eyes scanned the sea of people, searching for her first pickup. Then she saw him. At the far end of the terminal, sitting alone with his phone in hand, was a sharply dressed man who looked like he belonged in a corporate boardroom rather than a crowded airport. Emma's heart skipped a beat. This must be him. She was certain of it. Hi. You must be Kevin, she asked, her voice a bit too loud, trying to break the tension she felt. The man looked up at her, his dark eyes wide for a moment as if caught off guard. He didn't say anything for a beat, then slowly nodded. Hi, Emma, he said, his voice smooth and calm. Sorry, I'm a little early. It's fine, don't worry about it. Emma, assuming he was simply shy, took a seat across from him. Blind dates are always so awkward, aren't they? She chuckled nervously, shifting her hands in her lap. I know, Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, but that's okay. I can talk enough for both of us. The man, whose name was Liam, was quiet at first, glancing at his phone again. A message flashed on his screen, canceling a meeting with a colleague. He hesitated, his gaze flicking back to Emma. There was something about her, something real and unpolished, that intrigued him. Most people who sat at his table in high-end restaurants were always too polished, too rehearsed. Emma's honesty, her nervousness, her openness, made him pause. Right, he finally said, leaning back in his chair with a slight smile. Blind dates are something else. Emma laughed nervously, hoping the conversation would flow smoothly. But the truth was, she was uncomfortable, unsure of herself. After all, she was just a waitress in a second-rate diner, struggling to make ends meet, while Liam was a man who looked like he could own the whole airport. So, what do you do? She asked, trying to make conversation. I work in tech, Liam replied vaguely, his voice giving nothing away. Tech? Emma perked up, trying to steer the conversation into safer waters. That sounds cool. Like coding and apps and stuff? I'm terrible with computers, I can't even set up my own email half the time. Liam chuckled softly. Something like that, he said, still not revealing too much. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, though. In fact, it was strangely calming. For the first time in a while, Liam felt at ease. Emma's rambling made him smile. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and she didn't seem to be judging him like the people in his business world often did. They talked for a few more minutes, exchanging small talk about the weather, about life. Emma shared a few anecdotes about her struggles at the diner and her dream of opening her own art studio. Liam listened, truly listened, something that most people never did with him. He felt a small spark of connection, something genuine. And then, her phone buzzed. Emma glanced down at the screen, her stomach sinking. Hey Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin. Her face turned beet red as she looked up at Liam, realizing her mistake. You're not Kevin, are you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam smiled sheepishly, guilt flashing in his eyes. No, I'm not, he said softly. Emma's heart dropped as she stood up quickly, her face burning with embarrassment. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, she muttered, grabbing her coat and practically running toward the door. Liam stood too, his hand outstretched, but she was already gone, disappearing into the crowd. He stood there for a moment, a mix of regret and curiosity gnawing at him. Why did he feel this strange pull to her? And why, despite the awkwardness, was he hoping he'd get to see her again? Emma rushed out of the restaurant, her heart pounding with embarrassment. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Her face burned red as she half walked, half ran through the crowded terminal. The message on her phone had been clear. Kevin was waiting at table 7. And yet, there she was, practically running away from a man she had mistaken for her blind date. She had barely looked at him before sitting down, assuming he was Kevin. Now, she had made a fool of herself. She stood still for a moment outside the restaurant, trying to catch her breath, her mind racing with all the ways she had embarrassed herself. But despite her embarrassment, she couldn't shake the strange feeling that lingered. Something about him had felt different, real, genuine. She sighed and walked toward the exit, trying to put the awkward situation behind her. But as she reached the sliding doors, she glanced back over her shoulder, half expecting him to follow her. He didn't, but she couldn't quite shake the thought that she would see him again. As she stepped out into the rainy New York City streets, she couldn't help but wonder about him. Was he really as nice as he seemed? Or had she imagined it? Her mind raced with 100 questions. Who was he? What had he been doing at the airport? Why had he not corrected her sooner? And why had she felt such a strange connection to him? She shook her head, trying to clear the thoughts. It was just a misunderstanding, she told herself. It didn't mean anything. She couldn't afford to get caught up in that. She had enough to worry about, like paying her rent and figuring out how to make ends meet. The dream of opening her art studio felt further and further away with each passing day. She had a lot on her plate, and a mistake at a blind date wasn't something she had time to dwell on. The next morning, Emma walked into the small diner where she worked. The familiar clink of dishes and the hum of quiet conversations made her feel like she was back in her element, even if the job didn't pay much. As she made her way to the back, she saw Jenny, her best friend and roommate, sitting at a booth. "So, how did it go? Did you meet Kevin?" Jenny asked with a teasing smile. Emma sighed, rubbing her temples. I sat at the wrong table. It was such a mess, Jen. I can't believe it. The guy I talked to wasn't even Kevin." Jenny's eyes widened in surprise. "Wait, what? Who was it then?" "Some guy named Liam," Emma muttered, taking a seat across from her. "He was really nice, though, but I embarrassed myself. I ran out before he could even explain." Jenny laughed, clearly amused by the whole situation. "Oh my God, Emma, you really need to stop doing that. You've got to just own up to it next time." Emma groaned and buried her face in her hands. "I don't know, Jen. It felt like I connected with him. But I made a fool of myself." Jenny softened her tone. "Hey, mistakes happen. Maybe you'll see him again. Who knows?" Emma wasn't so sure. The whole situation seemed too awkward to think about again. Still, as the day went on, she couldn't get Liam out of her mind. His eyes, the way he had smiled at her, even when she was fumbling through the conversation. It felt so real. And then, that little voice inside her head whispered, "What if you see him again? What if he's not just some guy you'll never hear from again?" The next few days passed in a blur of work and more thoughts about Liam. She had to remind herself to stay focused on the reality of her life, not get swept away in some fantasy. But then, the unexpected happened. One afternoon, while Emma was serving coffee at the diner, she heard a familiar voice. She froze. "Excuse me, I think I'm in the wrong place," the voice said. She looked up, and there he was, Liam. He stood at the counter, a slight smile on his face. He wasn't in his suit from the other day, but he looked just as confident, just as striking. Emma felt a rush of emotions. Shock, excitement, and yes, a little bit of fear. He recognized her. "You're the waitress from the airport," he said, his eyes warm. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what to say, but she managed a shaky smile. Yeah, I guess I am." "I didn't expect to run into you here," Liam continued. "I was hoping we could talk." Emma swallowed, suddenly feeling like she was the one on a blind date now. "Talk? About what?" "About that night," he said. "I know things got a little awkward, but I'd like to make it up to you. Maybe we could grab a coffee or something." Emma hesitated. She wasn't sure what to make of this. Was he just being polite? Or was there more to it? "I don't know," she said, her voice uncertain. "I mean, we didn't even know each other. I think I made a fool of myself that night." Liam smiled, a little sheepish. "Honestly, I thought it was refreshing. You were real with me, and that's something I don't get a lot of." His words hung in the air for a moment. Emma felt her defenses starting to lower. Maybe she hadn't made a fool of herself after all. Maybe this wasn't just a mistake. Maybe it was the beginning of something more. Emma stood there for a moment, unsure of how to respond. Liam's words hung in the air, and she felt her defenses slowly crumbling. She had expected this encounter to be awkward, to feel like a mistake all over again, but instead, his sincerity made her pause. "You really mean that?" she asked, still feeling a bit hesitant. Liam gave her a warm smile, his eyes full of honesty. "Yes, I do. I think we got off on the wrong foot, but I'd like to make it right." Emma took a deep breath, trying to clear her nerves. She had never been great at handling situations like this, especially with someone like him, someone who seemed to have it all together. "Okay," she said after a moment, her voice soft but steady. "I'd like that." They agreed to meet for coffee after her shift, and when Emma walked into the small cafe later that evening, she was surprised at how calm she felt. Liam was already there, sitting at a table near the window, looking out at the rain that had begun to fall. He stood when he saw her, his smile warm and genuine. "I'm glad you came," he said as she sat down across from him. Emma smiled back, feeling a little more at ease. "I'm glad too. I wasn't sure what to expect, but here we are." They ordered their drinks, and as the conversation flowed, Emma realized how easy it was to talk to Liam. The awkwardness from their first meeting seemed to melt away. They talked about everything: her life as a waitress, her dream of opening an art studio, his work in tech, and his unexpected love for photography. It was a strange connection, one that felt almost too good to be true. But there was something about him that made Emma feel seen, in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, she didn't feel like she had to put on a facade. She could just be herself. "You're really passionate about art, huh?" Liam asked, his eyes focused on her. Emma nodded, feeling a sense of pride in her voice. "Yeah, I've always wanted to have my own studio. It's been a dream of mine for as long as I can remember." Liam leaned back in his chair, his fingers tapping the rim of his coffee cup thoughtfully. "I think you could make that happen. You've got the drive, I can tell." Emma laughed softly, feeling a bit embarrassed by the compliment. "It's easier said than done," she said, looking down at her hands. "I don't even know where to start." Liam's expression softened, and he reached across the table, gently placing his hand over hers. "Maybe I can help." Emma looked up at him, surprised by his words. "What do you mean?" "I know a lot of people in the art world," he explained, his voice steady but kind. "I could introduce you to some of them, maybe even help you get your foot in the door. You've got talent, Emma. Don't sell yourself short." Emma's heart skipped a beat. Was he really offering to help her? It sounded too good to be true. "You'd really do that for me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam nodded, his eyes locked on hers. "Of course. I don't do things halfway. If I'm going to help, I'm going to help." Emma felt a lump form in her throat, a mix of gratitude and disbelief. She had never expected something like this, someone like him, with all his resources and connections, offering to help her, a simple waitress struggling to make ends meet. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Liam replied softly. "Just take the chance when it comes." The rest of the evening passed by quickly, filled with more conversation and laughter. It felt so natural, so easy, that Emma almost forgot about the worries that had been plaguing her for so long. She didn't have to worry about her job or her rent or the uncertainty of her future. For once, she could just enjoy the moment. When they parted ways that evening, Emma felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful. As she walked home that night, the rain had stopped, and the streets were quieter than usual. She glanced up at the sky, feeling a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in months. She had no idea what the next step would be, but for once, she wasn't afraid to take it. The next morning, Emma received a call. It was Liam. "Hey, it's me," he said, his voice as calm and steady as always. "I've spoken to a few people, and there's a gallery event coming up. They're looking for new talent. I think you should submit your work." Emma's heart raced as she listened to him. "Are you serious?" she asked, unable to hide the excitement in her voice. "I'm serious. I've already put in a good word for you. Just send them your best pieces." Emma's mind was spinning. This could be the opportunity she had been waiting for. She never thought it would come like this, but here it was, in front of her. And it was all thanks to Liam. "I can't believe this is happening," she said, her voice full of emotion. Liam chuckled softly. "I told you. You've got talent. Now it's time to show the world." The next few days felt like a whirlwind for Emma. She couldn't believe how quickly things had changed. The gallery event Liam had mentioned was just around the corner, and she was busy putting together her best pieces, trying to decide what to send. She had never felt more uncertain, yet hopeful at the same time. The chance to showcase her work in front of professionals was everything she had dreamed of, and it felt like a dream come true. Every time she looked at the paintings she had worked so hard on, doubts crept into her mind. Was she really good enough? Would they think her art was worthy? The fear of failure had always been a part of her, but this time, there was something different. There was Liam. He had become more than just a stranger she had mistaken for her blind date. He had become her mentor, someone who believed in her when she barely believed in herself. On the morning of the event, Emma felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She had spent the entire night before preparing her portfolio and making sure every piece was perfect. She was exhausted, but she couldn't let that stop her. She wanted this so badly. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her outfit, trying to calm her nerves. "You can do this, Emma," she whispered to herself. "You've got this." The drive to the gallery felt like an eternity. Emma kept running over her speech in her mind, wondering how she would present herself to the people who could change her life. The car ride was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engine and the occasional sound of rain tapping against the windows. She couldn't help but think of Liam. He had given her this opportunity, and she wasn't about to waste it. As she walked into the gallery, the room buzzed with the sound of people talking and admiring the artwork on the walls. Emma took a deep breath and felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. This was it. This was the moment that could change everything. She made her way over to the registration desk, where a young woman greeted her with a smile. "Welcome," the woman said. "What name should I put down for you?" Emma hesitated for a second, then straightened her shoulders. "Emma Brooks," she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. After checking in, Emma was led into the main exhibition hall, where artists and art lovers mingled. It was a beautiful space, with high ceilings and soft lighting that made the artwork come alive. She glanced around, scanning the crowd. A few familiar faces from her past were there, people she had met briefly at other events or in passing. But then her gaze fell on Liam, standing by a group of people near the far wall. He was talking to someone, but when he saw her, his face lit up. He waved, and Emma felt a surge of warmth spread through her chest. She walked over to him, feeling the weight of her nerves lifting just a little. "You made it," Liam said, smiling as she approached. "Of course I did," Emma replied, trying to sound confident. "I couldn't pass up this opportunity." Liam looked over at the paintings Emma had submitted, his gaze softening as he studied them. "They look incredible, Emma," he said quietly. "You've really outdone yourself." She smiled, feeling a bit shy under his praise. "Thank you. I'm just hoping they'll like them." Liam placed a hand on her shoulder. "They will. You've got talent, and it shows. Just trust in yourself." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of his words settle into her heart. It was easy to doubt herself, but with Liam's encouragement, she felt stronger. As the evening went on, Emma mingled with the other artists and visitors, receiving compliments on her work. Each compliment made her feel a little more confident, a little more sure of herself. By the time the event was winding down, she had already spoken to several gallery owners and potential buyers, all of whom seemed genuinely interested in her pieces. It was more than she had ever hoped for. As the crowd began to thin out, Liam approached her again, his eyes sparkling. "I told you this was going to be your night," he said, grinning. Emma couldn't help but laugh. "I never thought it would happen like this. I mean, I thought I'd be lucky just to get in the door." "You're not just in the door," Liam said, with a smile. "You've got them talking about your art. That's a big deal." Emma felt a rush of gratitude. She hadn't realized just how much she needed this kind of encouragement until now. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said softly, looking at Liam with appreciation. He shrugged, his expression turning humble. "I just gave you a little push. The rest is all you." As the night ended, Emma realized that this wasn't just about art or career opportunities. It was about something deeper. Liam had changed the course of her life by believing in her when she didn't believe in herself. He had given her a chance to prove her worth, and now she was seeing the results of that faith. As she walked out of the gallery, her heart swelled with a sense of accomplishment she had never known before. She wasn't the same person she had been just a few months ago, shy, unsure, afraid of failure. Now, she knew that she could face whatever came next. And with Liam by her side, she felt like anything was possible. The days following the gallery event were a blur for Emma. She could hardly believe how much her life had shifted in such a short time. The phone calls kept coming, each one more exciting than the last. Buyers were interested in her work, and several galleries wanted to feature her in upcoming exhibitions. She had started to feel like she was truly on her way to making her dream a reality, something she had once thought was so far out of reach. The support from Liam had been incredible, and as they spoke more and spent time together, Emma began to realize how much she enjoyed his company, how easy it was to talk to him. What had started as a mistaken blind date had turned into something much more meaningful. Liam, with his calm demeanor and quiet confidence, had a way of making her feel like she was capable of anything. It wasn't just the art world he was helping her navigate. He was helping her see a different path in life, one that was full of possibilities. One evening, a few weeks after the gallery event, Liam invited Emma to dinner. It wasn't a special occasion, nothing big, but he had mentioned a new restaurant that had opened in the city and thought it would be fun to check it out together. Emma had been looking forward to it all week. They met at the restaurant, and as always, Liam greeted her with that warm smile that made her heart skip a beat. "You look beautiful," he said as he stood to greet her. Emma smiled, feeling her cheeks flush. "Thanks. You look good yourself." Liam's grin widened, and they sat down at their table. The evening was filled with easy conversation, the kind where time seemed to slip away unnoticed. They laughed over silly stories, shared their dreams and fears, and for the first time in a long while, Emma felt completely at ease. She had never been good at relationships, always too focused on survival and the next step. But with Liam, there was no pressure, no expectations, just two people enjoying each other's company. As dinner came to a close, Liam looked at her across the table, his expression softening. "I have to admit," he began, his voice quieter than usual, "I've really enjoyed getting to know you, Emma. More than I thought I would." Emma's heart raced as she met his gaze. "I've enjoyed it too," she said, her voice just as soft. There was something about him that made her feel like everything was possible. "I know we've come from different worlds, but I feel like we get each other," Liam continued. "I can't help but think, maybe this could be more than just friendship." Emma's pulse quickened, and for a moment, she wasn't sure how to respond. She had never expected to find something like this. They had shared so many laughs, so many moments, and she couldn't deny that there was an undeniable connection between them. But at the same time, Emma had been so focused on her own goals, her own independence, that the thought of letting someone in felt terrifying. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I wasn't looking for anything. I mean, I've just been so focused on building my future." Liam smiled gently, his eyes understanding. "I get it. You've worked hard to get where you are. But I think you deserve more than just hard work. You deserve happiness, too." His words struck a chord with Emma. It had been so long since anyone had cared enough to say something like that to her. She had spent years focusing on surviving, on making ends meet, that she had forgotten what it felt like to simply live and enjoy life. "I don't know if I'm ready for all of this," Emma said, her voice quiet. "I've spent so long being on my own that it feels hard to open up to someone else." Liam reached across the table and took her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "You don't have to rush into anything, Emma," he said softly. "I just want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. You don't have to be alone anymore." Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her, something she hadn't expected. She wasn't sure where this was going, but she knew she couldn't deny the feeling she had for him. The connection they shared was undeniable, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe she could have both, her career and a relationship. Maybe she could have it all. After a long pause, Emma finally spoke, her voice filled with uncertainty, but also hope. "Maybe we can take it slow. See where it goes." Liam smiled, his eyes lighting up. "Of course. No rush, Emma. Just take things one step at a time." As they finished their dinner and left the restaurant, Emma couldn't help but feel like this was a new chapter for her. A chapter where she could be both strong and vulnerable, focused on her dreams, and open to the possibility of love. As she walked alongside Liam, his hand still gently holding hers, she realized that maybe she wasn't so alone after all. Maybe, just maybe, everything she had been working for was leading her to this moment, this new beginning. She smiled to herself, the future feeling a little brighter than it had before. Weeks passed, and Emma's life continued to change in ways she had never imagined. With Liam by her side, She felt a new sense of hope and purpose that she had never felt before. Her art was gaining more recognition, and doors were opening for her in the art world, opportunities that she had once thought were out of her reach. She was even starting to build a small network of connections with people who were genuinely interested in her work, something that would have been unimaginable just a few months ago. But it wasn't just her career that was changing. Her relationship with Liam was growing, too. They spent more time together, and Emma found herself opening up to him in ways she never had with anyone else. She shared her fears, her insecurities, and her dreams with him, and for the first time in her life, she felt heard and understood. Liam, in turn, shared his own struggles and past with her. He had grown up in a world of privilege, but he had never felt truly connected to the people around him. He had always been the businessman, the one people admired for his success, but Emma made him feel like he was more than just his title. He felt like he could finally be himself with her, without any pretense. One evening, as they sat in Liam's penthouse, sipping wine and watching the city lights twinkle outside, Liam turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "You know, Emma," he began, his voice quiet, "I never thought I'd meet someone like you. I've met so many people, but with you, it's different. You make me feel like I'm more than just the guy with money. You make me feel like I can be real, for once." Emma smiled softly, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I feel the same way," she replied, her voice just as quiet. "Before you, I was so focused on just surviving, on trying to make ends meet. I didn't think I had time for anything else. But with you, I feel like I'm finally living, not just existing." They shared a quiet moment, the kind of moment that felt like the world had stopped, just for them. In that silence, they didn't need words to understand each other. They just knew. It was in that moment that Emma realized how much Liam had changed her life, not just by giving her opportunities in her career, but by showing her that she deserved happiness, love, and the chance to truly live. The next few days felt like a whirlwind as Emma prepared for her biggest exhibition yet. It was a major event, one that could open doors to bigger galleries and potential buyers. Liam had been by her side every step of the way, offering advice, encouragement, and even helping her with the logistics of the event. As the day of the exhibition arrived, Emma found herself standing in front of the gallery, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. This was it. This was the moment that could change everything for her. She glanced at Liam, who stood beside her, looking calm and collected as always. "You ready?" he asked with a smile. Emma nodded, her nerves beginning to settle. "Ready as I'll ever be." The exhibition was a huge success. People were drawn to her work, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. The gallery was buzzing with excitement, and Emma found herself talking to collectors, curators, and other artists. She couldn't believe how far she had come in such a short time. As the evening wound down, Liam pulled her aside. "I'm so proud of you," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "This is just the beginning, Emma. You've got so much more to offer the world." Emma smiled, feeling her heart swell with pride. "I couldn't have done this without you," she said, her voice full of gratitude. "You've helped me believe in myself again." Liam smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did all the hard work. I just gave you the push you needed." They shared a quiet moment, standing together, looking at the crowd that had gathered around her art. Emma felt like this was a turning point, not just in her career, but in her life. With Liam by her side, she knew that she could face anything the future had to offer. As the night ended and the gallery began to empty out, Emma found herself standing alone with Liam, looking at her work one last time. "What's next?" she asked, her voice full of curiosity and excitement. Liam smiled at her, his eyes filled with something deeper, something more than just admiration. "Whatever you want, Emma. The world is yours now, and I'll be right here, supporting you every step of the way." Emma smiled back, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living, truly living, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she had everything she needed to build the life she had always dreamed of. And as she looked at Liam, standing beside her, she realized that sometimes the unexpected moments, the mistakes, the accidents, the wrong tables, could lead to the most beautiful things. With him by her side, Emma knew that anything was possible. As weeks went by, Emma's life seemed to settle into a new rhythm. Her art career was flourishing, and she found herself balancing her newfound success with the quiet, fulfilling relationship she had with Liam. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving. She was living, truly living. The sense of stability she had longed for was finally becoming a reality. The gallery that had shown her work was planning a solo exhibition for her, something Emma could hardly believe. It was the culmination of years of hard work, and it felt surreal to be standing on the brink of something so monumental. But even as her art career reached new heights, Emma felt an unease settle in her chest. She had spent so long focusing on her dreams, on building a life for herself, that she had never stopped to consider how deeply her relationship with Liam had affected her. He had always been there for her, encouraging her, supporting her, and, in many ways, changing her life. Yet, there were still moments when Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't entirely ready to let someone in, not fully. Liam had never pressured her. He had been patient, understanding, and always kind. But the more she thought about it, the more Emma realized that there was a part of her that was still holding back. One evening, after a particularly busy day at the gallery, Emma found herself walking home from the diner, her mind racing. The streets were quiet, the only sound the distant hum of traffic and her own footsteps. She felt a little out of breath, not just from the walk, but from the weight of the thoughts pressing on her chest. When she reached the small park near her apartment, she paused and sat on one of the benches, staring at the night sky. The stars seemed distant, almost as if they were unreachable, just like the doubts that had been clouding her mind. She couldn't keep ignoring the truth. She had been holding back from Liam, from fully embracing the love he was offering. She had built walls around her heart for so long, walls that had been necessary to survive, but now, she wasn't sure if they were still serving her. She thought back to the conversations she and Liam had shared, how easy it had been to talk to him, how natural it felt to be with him. He had never asked for more than she was ready to give, and yet, somehow, he made her feel like she could be more than just the struggling artist she had always been. She couldn't keep pretending that she wasn't falling for him, that she wasn't beginning to imagine a future with him. But even as the thought crossed her mind, a knot tightened in her stomach. She wasn't sure she could open herself up completely, not just yet. She had worked so hard to get where she was, and the idea of relying on someone else, of fully trusting someone with her heart, felt like a risk she wasn't sure she was ready to take. The next day, Emma met Liam for lunch at their usual cafe. The moment he sat down across from her, she could see that something was on his mind. He looked at her with those familiar, steady eyes, and she knew immediately that he had sensed her unease. "You okay?" he asked gently. Emma hesitated, taking a deep breath before responding. "I don't know, Liam," she began, her voice quieter than usual. "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I'm not sure I'm ready." Liam's expression softened, his gaze never leaving hers. "Ready for what?" "Ready for everything," she said, her voice shaky. "Ready for this, us. I know I've been shutting myself off, and I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to open myself up completely." Liam didn't say anything at first. He just sat there, letting her words hang in the air. Emma could feel the tension in her chest, but at the same time, she knew this conversation was inevitable. "Emma," Liam finally said, his voice calm but firm, "I don't need you to be perfect. I don't need you to have everything figured out. I just need you to be honest with me, and to trust me when I say that I'm here for you, no matter what." Emma swallowed hard, her heart racing. His words were exactly what she needed to hear, but they also made the wall she had built around her heart feel more fragile than ever. "I want to trust you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I really do." Liam smiled softly, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Then trust that I'm not going anywhere. We'll take this one step at a time, okay? No pressure, no rush." Emma nodded, feeling the tightness in her chest slowly ease. It wasn't going to be easy, and she knew there would still be moments of doubt, but for the first time, she felt like she was ready to try, ready to take the risk, to open herself up to something more than just a dream. As the conversation continued, Emma realized that the love Liam offered wasn't just about him being there for her in the good times. It was about him being there, patiently, even when she wasn't sure she was ready. And in that moment, she knew that she was finally ready to take the leap. It wasn't going to be perfect, but maybe that was okay. Maybe perfection wasn't what she needed. Maybe what she needed was to be real, to be vulnerable, and to trust that everything else would fall into place. As she looked at Liam, she realized that the future wasn't something to be feared. It was something to be embraced, one step at a time. As the weeks went on, Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger, and the walls Emma had carefully built around her heart slowly crumbled. For the first time, she allowed herself to embrace the idea of love, the possibility of truly trusting someone, and of building a future together. They spent more time together, going on spontaneous adventures, talking about their dreams, and supporting each other in ways that felt natural and effortless. Liam continued to be her biggest cheerleader, offering guidance and support in both her art career and personal life, while Emma found herself opening up to him in ways she never had before. With every conversation, with every shared laugh, Emma felt more and more certain that Liam was the one she had been waiting for. She had once feared that love would complicate her carefully structured life, but now she realized that it only added richness and depth to everything she had worked for. One evening, as they sat on the rooftop of Liam's penthouse, watching the city lights twinkle below, Emma felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. The last few months had been a whirlwind, full of challenges, growth, and unexpected surprises, but she was beginning to understand that she had the strength to face whatever came next. "I can't believe how far we've come," Emma said softly, her voice carrying across the quiet rooftop. "It feels like everything has changed, so quickly, but in the best way possible." Liam looked over at her, his eyes soft and filled with affection. "I knew from the moment I met you that you were something special," he said, his voice steady. "But I didn't know that you would change my life like this. You've made me realize that I don't need to hide behind the success or the image I've built. With you, I can just be me, and that's enough." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. She had always feared that she wasn't enough, that her dreams and her humble beginnings would be too much for anyone to accept. But with Liam, she had found someone who not only accepted her, but celebrated her for who she truly was. "You're more than enough," Emma said quietly, looking into his eyes. "You always have been." The connection between them felt undeniable, as if they had been woven together by fate, destined to find each other no matter how different their worlds seemed. In Liam, Emma had found someone who saw her potential and pushed her to believe in herself when she doubted her abilities. And in Emma, Liam had found someone who loved him without expectations, someone who made him feel like he could just be human, flawed, vulnerable, and real. As they sat in the quiet of the evening, a peaceful silence fell over them, filled only by the distant hum of the city and the occasional rustle of the wind. For a moment, everything felt perfect. "I've been thinking," Liam said, breaking the silence. "I know we've both come a long way, and we've been through a lot together. But I want to know, what's next for us? Where do we go from here?" Emma turned to him, surprised by the question, but also relieved. She had been thinking about the future too, about the possibilities, and what it meant for them as a couple. "I think," she began, taking a deep breath, "I think we should keep moving forward. Together. I want to continue building my career, but I also want to build something with you, something real." Liam's eyes brightened at her words, his smile widening. "I couldn't agree more. Whatever you need, whatever we need, I'm here. I'll be with you every step of the way." Emma felt a wave of warmth fill her chest as she realized just how much Liam meant to her. He had always been there for her, believing in her even when she couldn't believe in herself. And now, she was ready to take the next step, to fully embrace the future that awaited them both. "I'm glad you're here," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm glad we found each other." Liam reached for her hand, holding it gently in his. "Me too," he replied, his voice full of sincerity. "And I know we're just getting started." As the night wore on, they talked about their hopes for the future, the places they wanted to visit, the dreams they wanted to chase together, and the life they wanted to build. Emma had always been afraid of what might happen if she let someone in, but now she knew that letting Liam into her heart was the best decision she had ever made. Together, they could face whatever challenges the future held, and together, they would make their dreams come true. The next day, as Emma stood in front of her latest painting in the studio, she realized that her journey had only just begun. With Liam by her side, she felt like the possibilities were endless. She was no longer afraid of what the future might bring because she knew that, no matter what, they would face it together. And for the first time in her life, Emma felt truly at peace, knowing that she had found not only success in her career, but also something even more precious, a love that was real, deep, and unwavering. As the months passed, Emma's life continued to bloom in ways she had never imagined. Her art career soared to new heights, with her works being displayed in prominent galleries across the city. The recognition and success she had always dreamed of were now becoming her reality. But it wasn't just her career that was thriving. Her relationship with Liam had blossomed too. The walls she had once built around her heart were now completely gone, and she had fully embraced the love and support Liam offered. Together, they were not just building careers, but also building a life. Emma found herself looking at Liam not just as her partner, but as her equal, someone who truly understood her dreams, her fears, and her hopes for the future. They began discussing their plans more seriously. What kind of life they wanted to create together, the kind of home they would share, and even the possibility of starting a family one day. It felt like their future was open to them, filled with endless possibilities. One afternoon, as Emma stood in her studio, carefully putting the final touches on a new painting, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "Meet me for lunch? I've got something I want to talk to you about." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure why, but she had a feeling that this wasn't just about lunch. She quickly finished what she was doing, cleaned up her brushes, and headed out. When she arrived at the small cafe they liked to visit, Liam was already waiting, a small smile on his face. She could tell that something was on his mind, but he seemed calm, collected. "You're early," Emma remarked as she sat down across from him. Liam's smile widened. "I couldn't wait," he said. "I've been thinking a lot about us and where we're headed, and I think it's time we take the next step." Emma's heart raced, and she felt a wave of nervous excitement wash over her. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice betraying her curiosity. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. He placed it on the table between them, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Emma," Liam began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "You've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've shown me what it really means to live, to love, and to be present. And I can't imagine my future without you in it. So, I want to ask you, will you marry me?" Emma's eyes widened in shock, her heart pounding in her chest. The world seemed to stop for a moment as she stared at Liam, the man who had been her biggest supporter, her rock, and now, he was asking her to be his partner for life. Tears filled her eyes as she reached for the box, opening it slowly. Inside was a beautiful ring, simple yet elegant, with a small diamond that sparkled in the light. It was everything she had ever wanted, not just in a ring, but in a person. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Liam, of course yes." The moment she said the words, Liam smiled, his eyes lighting up with joy. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I've been waiting to hear that for so long," he said, his voice full of relief and happiness. The two of them sat there, hand in hand, their hearts full of love and hope for the future. For Emma, it was a moment of pure joy and fulfillment, the kind of moment she had always dreamed of but never truly thought was possible. She had spent so much of her life on her own, building a career, surviving, and fighting for what she wanted. But now, she had found someone who loved her, someone who believed in her, and someone who was ready to share everything with her. That evening, Liam and Emma celebrated their engagement with a quiet dinner at the rooftop of his penthouse, just the two of them, under the stars. They talked about everything, about their future, about their dreams, and about how far they had come. For Emma, it was a perfect night, one that felt like a culmination of everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of. The next few months flew by as they began planning their wedding, but it wasn't the details that mattered most. It was the love they shared, the life they were building together. Their wedding was a small, intimate ceremony, with just a few close friends and family. As Emma walked down the aisle, she felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She wasn't just marrying the man she loved. She was marrying her best friend, the person who had stood by her through everything, the person who had helped her find her way. And as they exchanged vows, surrounded by the people who mattered most, Emma realized that the future was no longer something to fear. It was something to embrace. Together, they were ready to face whatever came next, knowing that, with each other, they could conquer anything. As they walked out of the ceremony, hand in hand, Emma felt a sense of contentment and joy fill her heart. This was the life she had always wanted. This was her happily ever after. And she was ready to live it, starting today.